Hello. Thought I'd make this little video today. Talk about how I store food. This is going to be a quick one. Not going to be a lot of technical stuff. I actually bought some pinto beans and some rice, really just to make this video. And the reason I'm making this video is because there's other things that I should be doing, but they're not so fun. So I thought I'd make a video. First thing I'm going to start with is oxygen absorbers. You get your oxygen absorbers from sources. You can get them eBay, the same place you're going to get your Mylar bags. You can get them at eBay, you can get them on Amazon, and they will come sealed when you get ready to use them. What I got here today is probably going to make about 20 bags worth of stuff. So I'm going to pull out 20, and I'm going to put the rest of them in a Mylar bag and seal it up so that they don't go bad, because as soon as they're exposed to air, they start working, and they'll work for a while depending on what size you get. I think these are 500 cc or 500 grams. Do not eat, let me see, yeah, let's don't eat them. These are oxy-freeze, but I'm not going to leave them exposed to air long. I'm going to take out the 20 or so that I'm going to use, and the rest I'm going to reseal. I do have a vacuum sealer that we use for meat. It's back in the room there, but you don't have to vacuum seal them. The main thing is just get a lot of the air out of the bag that you can get when you seal it, and I'll show you how I do that. It's pretty quick and pretty easy. And I'm going to separate us a few out to use today, and we're going to use them up in the next hour or so, so it's really no big deal. I think I'm going to edit here and stop the camera, and when I get all my ducks in a row, I'll start up, and I'll basically let you see how I'm sealing these back up, okay? Because I'm going to have to change my camera angle a little bit. Be back in a minute. One, two, three, four. Alright, so I'm going to put these back in here. This is just a hair straightening iron, and I'm going to do it right up here close to the top, and there's a reason for that. Okay, I'm gonna get a little loud here in a second. Stick this hose in there, and I'm going to step on the pedal. Well, messed that up. Hang on. This doesn't really have to be vacuum sealed. You just need to seal out some extra air in it. And an easy way to do it is just go right up your hose there, seal it off. Then when you think you got enough air out of it, just pull your hose you lose that seal, because that's going to get, oh, let me shut this off. You can tell if you lose your seal because that's going to get unwrinkled. You can tell the vacuum is going out of it. So that's the way I do it. I'm going to keep these out right here, and so we're going to go ahead and get started. Of course, first wash your hands. You'll also notice that I don't put my expensive vacuum sealer. Very simple. It's my vacuum cleaner, and I taped a small like PVC hose in it, and I just hang it on the vacuum cleaner between runs. You'll notice that on my tags, I put what everything is. I put the date I'm putting it in here, and I don't put a weight. You know why? I don't care about the weight. My wife knows about how many beans she takes to cook for, 5 or 6 people, and she can open however many she wants to, or not open however many she wants to. She's a pretty smart gal. Of course, if you knew me, some of you might argue with that premise, but I just try to put enough so that we can feed 5 or 6 people on a bag. Now here's the thing, she won't have to use all this. And I'm going to show you why. We're going to seal it right here. Okay? And yes, this is a hair straightener. I'm going to drop an oxygen absorber in. Can't talk today. Just going to shake it down. I'm going to seal right here, right here. Does a really good job of sealing that. Just leave you enough to put your hose in. You notice I cut the end of my hose angled a little. Make it easier to get in there. Right out to the edge, and then if you want to, you can clamp right in front of it. That way you don't risk getting no air in there. Just do that, hang that back up. Now what will happen as that oxygen absorber starts pulling that air around it out of there, that oxygen out of there, this thing will get rock hard, and I will show it to you when we're done. So get it all shook down, get it to where you want it. And then what I do is I just take a sticker, and it says Pinto Beans and the date that I did it. Now, when we get ready to use it, we can make a small cut right here, just clip this corner off, dump out what we want, and we can seal it right back if we want to. And that way we haven't allowed much air to get in there. Your oxygen absorber may be used up at that point, but you don't really care if your oxygen absorber is used up, because this will be the bag that you go back to use again, and you'll know because it's not square. It's the one you're using out of. And like I say, I'll show you that when it gets to the point that all the air is pulled out of there. And I honestly believe that we'll do a little better with our hose if it's cut off square, because the problem there was that the Mylar was pulling right into the tip there. So we're going to cut it square off and see if that don't help things some. That's my redneck language coming in. See if it doesn't help things some. All right, just lay it out there. You can actually start over here and drag it. That's the way you want to do. And all it takes is a second. And I got this set on like 310. The one I have at home, I never set it above 280, and it seals the bags really well. I did notice my vacuum cleaner is rolling away from me, so I'm gonna have to readjust it a little. Come on, baby. Yeah, that squared off end works much better, doesn't it? Just drag it out, and when you get it like right up here, just hit right in front of it. And you can plainly see that bag is sealed real good. But guess what? I forgot to put an oxygen absorber in. Didn't I? See, y'all are supposed to watch and tell me this stuff. And that happens sometimes. And you gotta, that's why generally it's better. We do this with two people, so we can kind of check up on each other and make sure everything's being done correctly. Now, gonna have to get that seal back. Let's do it this way. Let's drag it right to about there. See how quick that works? Seal it right up to the edge of the tube. Drag the tube out a little bit. Seal right around it. Tell you folks, when you do like that, you almost make it look like you know what you're doing, don't you? And we've been doing this for a while, and the good news is that you can rotate this stuff. You can start you up a little rotation, and you know, like some of the stuff that we got packed that we did in 2019. We're eating right now. When we need a bag of rice, I'll just go out, pull out one of these, and you don't have to keep them cold. You just got to kind of keep them out of the light and where, like, you know, you don't want any critters eating their way into them. So we usually put them in totes. Let's see how it does if I put that on first. Vacuum cleaner is a good idea. Shut it off till you get it in there. That's one thing. I've used a couple things to pull the air out of them. And one of the things I used was an air mattress pump. You can get those that are battery powered or plug into the wall or plug into a cigarette lighter. And they work good, but they're kind of loud to sit on the table there, and they'll move on you, they'll wobble on you, so you got to be careful with them. Also, I've used a shop vac, but man, a shop vac is just too daggone loud. And if you use one of the smaller shop vacs, they tend to fall over and stuff when you're moving the hose around. This stand-up vacuum cleaner seems to be the perfect rig, and I'm going to set it right here behind the table leg so it quits rolling away on me. And but like I said, you can get with people you know, people you trust, because you may not want everybody knowing that you got food stored up. And but if you don't have food stored up, you're an idiot, okay? And you might not need to have years stored up, but you should have at least a couple of 3 months stored up all the time. We live in the New Madrid Fault area, and it's not a question of if we're going to have a big earthquake. It's a matter of when we're going to have a big earthquake. And guess who's going to get all the attention when the earthquake hits? Yeah, Memphis and St. Louis. Don't want to suck a bean up in you too. That'll restrict your airflow a little bit. Okay, there's my oxygen absorber. Go ahead and drag it out. Get her right here close to the edge. And boom, got her. Hang that back up on there. Put me a sticker on there. Now, obviously, you can look at these and tell it's some kind of bean, but what you can't tell is what kind of bean. So, mark what kind of bean. You want to have a little bit of choice. Of course, to me, a bean is a bean is a bean. So, doesn't really matter. But it probably matters to somebody. You can make some packages smaller than others. That's fine. Just make sure you got enough bags and enough oxygen absorbers for all the bags you want to put away and how big a servings you want. If there's only 2 of you, hey. Another thing, you can use little packets to trade to people. If you need to trade, and you probably will. Because there's going to be something you forgot that they didn't, and there's going to be something they forgot that you didn't, and you're going to find some people that you just love, and you don't want to see them starve to death, and you can use these little bags for swapping. Got another bean. Seems like I'm shoving it too far in there. Let's try her about right there. Oh yeah, oh yeah. For some reason that ain't sucking up. I bet you I got another bean in there. back up. All right, there's no sense in y'all watching the rest of this. When I switch to something else, I'll show you how to do it. Rice is going to go the same way as the beans. The only thing that's going to be different is when we get to this dehydrated milk, and I'll show you when we get there. All right, we're back again. What's my hair look like? Boy, I've been sweating and outside fooling around. Our weather is pretty amazing. Just now starting to get hot. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm telling you, we have had such an easy summer. For those of you that, well, I guess none of you have seen, this is non-fat dry milk. Now, the worst thing about it is it's non-fat. And the reason it's non-fat is because fat can cause it to spoil. So it's a double-sided coin there. You lose one good thing, but you gain another. So this allows you to store it, and you'll notice there's a best by date on here, not an expiration date. Don't pay no attention to that. When you take this out, whenever you do take it out, you open a pack and it's funky, don't use it. But don't pay any attention to that best by date. That just means, and you'll notice it's in, my gosh, it's in a Mylar bag. They've done to it what we're gonna do to it, except I'm gonna put 4 of them in a big bag with the oxygen absorber and suck the oxygen out of them. And I'll put enough in here to make a gallon. And just pick up the edge, seal it, and tilt my hose down. You see I made this little tilt thing, so I don't have to worry about hanging this daggone thing back up now. I can swing it down there, put it in there, and suck all the air out, and just turn it loose. That makes it real handy. But obviously it's gonna get loud here. So give me just a second. Now when you put it in here, obviously doing the rice, and I've already done the rice because it's the same process as doing the pinto beans. The only exception is this thing will suck the rice up in there, so don't stick it too far down in there. So that's good enough. You'll see once that oxygen absorber's been in there a while, those beans, I kept one out that I didn't get hardly any vacuum on at all. And look at it, that pinto beans, it's already starting to pull up. So once that oxygen absorber's been in there a while, it's gonna pull that down. If you see that it doesn't pull it down, that means you've got a leak in the bag somewhere. So you might need to take it out, rebag it, okay? And but once you see it sucked down like that, it's ready to put in storage. Of course, keep them away from sharp corners. Keep them away from where critters can chew them up. I don't know if they can smell through this Mylar, but trust me, if they can smell through this Mylar and they can get to it, they're gonna get in your food. Critters can find a way. Do you know you also have to watch for critters from the food that you buy in the store? Some rice bags, I remember that my wife has had to carry rice bag because when she got it home and opened it, it had little bitty brown specks in it that moved, okay? So, now, you may get to a point in your life, and I hope none of us ever do, where you're hungry enough that you just consider that extra protein. But as it stands right now, I'm not that hard up yet. I ain't eating bugs. regardless of what the green folks say. Give me a good old hamburger any day. Let me put me an oxygen absorber in here. You'll see as these things set out on the table, they start getting a little warm. And if I went to put one in there and it was already hot, I wouldn't use it. I'd just go ahead and assume that that one's, you know, better than halfway used up, because once you seal this bag, no other oxygen's gonna get in there. But if you go ahead and get all out that you can before you seal it, that just means your oxygen absorber's got that much more it's able to work. All right, so you see, I have got a huge old pile of food ready to go into my tote. And we store the totes in a different space. The main thing is I store them. Wait, let me shut this off. It's like a hot soldering iron laying around. It can ruin your day. And we put our totes in different spots, and the reason you want that is because you may have to grab a tote and go. So I try to mix up the things I put in there in each tote, so each tote has a little bit of everything. And if we gotta go, we don't have to worry if we have cooking oil, or if we have flour, or if we have beans, if we have cans of tuna, canned chicken. We don't have to worry, because I'm kind of mix them up where every tote's got a little bit of everything. So we can just grab a tote and go if we got to go in a hurry. And that's kind of the way I like to do it, rather than putting all your rice in one tote and all your, you know, white beans in another tote and all your pinto beans in another tote. I like to have it where I got a little bit of everything in each tote. That way, you know, shoot, if we have an earthquake and the roof collapses, one tote may get totally crushed. Well, it would be a shame if that one tote is what you had all your rice in, or all your pinto beans in, you know, and if it got crushed and contaminated. So I usually mix the totes up where I've got a little bit of everything in each tote. And the tote is really not with the idea of grabbing them and bugging out. It's to keep the bugs out. We're probably not gonna bug out. We live in a small town, and my plan is community. We're gonna help each other. I happen to love my neighbors, and I will see to it, almost like my family, I'm gonna see to it that my neighbors don't starve. Whatever, you know, whatever we have to do. You know, I always say, build a community, not a bunker. And I know that I have neighbors that are doing the same thing I'm doing. And I know when, even at a time when I had widows living on both sides of me, when the power would go out, I would call them and say, you need anything? You know, we got a propane stove going over here. Or I know one in particular is that big ice storm we had and we lost power. And I was like, you want us to bring you a hot cup of coffee? I've got a propane stove over here. We're frying eggs and bacon. And you know what? Every one of them said, no, I've got such and such, or I've done this. They all had a plan. And you know something? When folks take care of their self, you have really no reason for society to go insane. And country people plan ahead and take care of themselves. And the reason why is because it hadn't been that long ago that, especially like people in the South, didn't have what they called public work. Everybody was a subsistence farmer. You grew corn, you had a vegetable garden, and then you grew corn for a cash crop, and you kept enough corn out to plant next year and to feed your critters all through the winter. And that's just the way, you know, we're not 4 generations away from that like some places in the country. Now, we are a generation or 2 away from that, and I can see us heading that way, heading the way of the bigger cities and suburbs. But right now, especially older folks, they're not going to starve. They've planned for bad things. Experience is a great teacher. And fortunately, we've got enough old folks around here with a head full of wisdom. I remember when we were on strike, before I was a nurse, I worked at Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company in Union City. And we went out on strike one year because of contract disputes. And that year we were on strike, we had a bunch of older guys in the community plan, and we helped to plan and prepare. And we had a hog killing. We had an old school hog killing. And not only did we get to watch it, we got to help in it. And of course, me being a firearms instructor, it's my job to shoot the hogs. And I learned the way to do that. And there is a specific way to shoot a hog that you're about to butcher. And I didn't know it at the time, but I asked, and guess what? One of them old fellas there knew. And he said, you see how far their eyes are apart? I said, yep. He said, you make a perfect isosceles triangle with their eyes and their forehead. And you place that bullet to where it's a perfect isosceles triangle. And he said, you just pop them. And I had a .22 pistol, and I'd pop them. Them hogs would drop. They'd put that chain around their back feet, hoist them up on their tractor, and carry them over to the scalder, you know. And yes, I mean, we had a production line going there. I think we killed 19 or 20 hogs that day. And we had Bill Muse. He decided the community needed to know how to make sorghum. And so he got his cane out, and we went over there and we watched him make sorghum that day. And it's a long day when you make sorghum. I'll tell you what, when you slaughter hogs, it's a long day. Because we did everything. We rendered it down to the cracklings, you know, and rendered the lard out. Just like they did in the old days. They took the heads and made what they call head cheese or sauce out of the heads, which is kind of like a bologna in a sleeve, you know. And I mean, we learned how people did it 50 years ago when there wasn't no Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company around here, when folks didn't have outside jobs. They grew a cash crop, and they farmed, they grew their vegetables, they had chickens, and they had hogs, and they had a cow for milk. And everybody did that, and everybody got by. And when folks was too feeble, for whatever reason, to do those things, family took care of them. And that's the way we do it here. So no, I'm not building a bunker. I'm building a community. In that community, we're probably going to have to learn to fight to keep what we have as a community. But guess who can teach a man? I can take somebody in about 20 minutes. I've done it for 30 years. Show them how to use a set of sights, hand them a rifle, and say, go. That's what I did. Still certified instructor, still teaching, just not doing it on a professional basis anymore. My gosh, y'all, when people volunteer to take care of themselves, there's not much of a need for charity. And when you take care of your family, you take care of your own. Like the Bible says a man that won't take care of his own is worse than an infidel. That means you're worse than the worst sinner out there. You got to take care of each other. And yeah, I consider my neighbor my family. Just like that. Don't you remember where the story of the Good Samaritan came from? Love thy neighbor as myself. Who is my neighbor? And he gave an example of a Jew and a Samaritan. Traditionally, enemies. They didn't like each other. They considered, the Jews considered Samaritans like dogs. Yet this Samaritan found this Jewish man who was beat up on the side of the road, and he took him in. He dressed his wounds. He left money with the innkeeper to see that it covered his keep up. And whatever doctor bills might arrive, y'all, that's taking care of your neighbor. That's who's your neighbor. So be ready. I'm not just doing this stuff just for me and Mary. And that's like somebody asked me one time. They said, why you got so many AR-15s? Because there's a lot of folks in my neighborhood. They're like, what are you saying? I said, I'm saying, folks that ain't got a gun, I'm going to give them one. I consider it my job. I tell people that's why I got a dozen Bibles. You know, you got the beans, you got the bandages, you got the bullets, you got the boomsticks, and you got Bibles. And if I'm raptured out of here, somebody's going to need all that stuff. Just that simple. And probably about that time, if you get caught with a Bible, you're probably going to face some serious consequences. That's why I got so many. I got a box full of them in there. I mean a box full of brand new, small pocket New Testament. And they're going to be here for the taking when good Lord snatches me out. And you say, boy, that's awful nice of you putting all this stuff away that you may never get to use. It is, isn't it? That's a Christian thing to do, I think. Just that simple. So I'm glad y'all tuned in today. I hope this video helps. If you got any questions, you can comment below. I don't always look at comments. I'll just be quite honest with you. But I guess I get some kind of notification if I get one. But I can tell you what other kinds of stuff. I just use white bean or white rice and pinto beans today, just because that's two of the things we do, and that's probably two things you can never get enough of. But there's other stuff we put up too. And don't forget your seasoning. Seasoning is important too. I mean, white rice is okay, but man, if you ain't got a little something put in it or on it, it can get pretty nasty. You can get pretty sick of it after a while. Now, will it keep you from starving? Probably. But you're liable to get sick if that's all you got to eat is white rice. So there's all kind of lists on the internet you can find of what to store, how to store it. And I can tell you this, what's it? Tony Kachiri's spice. If it wasn't for Tony Kachiri's Cajun spice, I probably wouldn't eat half the stuff I do. I can sprinkle that stuff on anything. I could probably sprinkle that on shoe leather. I could probably put that on ice cream and eat it. It's really good. It's got a unique flavor, and whatever you're cooking, it just seems to go good. And of course, we got lard. We keep lard. Now, lard will go rancid if you let it get hot. If you keep it in the sealed container and you keep it in a cool place, lard can last a long time. And listen, you can eat lard spread on a biscuit and get nutritional value out of that animal fat and calories. So, and don't tell me you can't, because I know plenty of people who growing up, all they had for breakfast was a biscuit with bacon grease smeared on it. And they doing all right to me. Some of them's hitting 92, 95 years old now. So just think about this. If you aren't making preparations, make preparations. This winter's going to get bad. I think that energy costs are going to keep going up as long as this fool and his fellow criminal cabal is in power globally. And it's not going to get any better. And beans and rice aren't going to get any cheaper. Make preparations now. And if you make preparations now, you won't have to worry about who's going to take care of you if something bad happens. You can start considering who you're going to help take care of when something bad happens. And food like this is cheap. You know why this food is cheap? Because everybody goes and eats fast food. With what I could spend feeding me and my wife at McDonald's would pay for everything I've done here today. For one meal at McDonald's. Now, I'm not telling you to stop eating out. I'm just telling you to throw a little money back and start putting up food that we call staples. There, you know, get you some bouillon cubes to throw in that rice. Keep you plenty of salt. Salt is going to be, listen to me, salt is going to be priceless if something bad happens. And if you ain't got a couple 100 pounds of salt, and I don't mean Morton table salt, I mean just plain old salt, you're going to be hurting when something bad happens, because that's the way for years, that's the way we preserved our meat, and we can still do it. Matter of fact, when we did that hog killing, we did bacon just like in the old days. We covered it with salt and we put it in the smokehouse. And we had bacon, homemade, eating high on the hog. Now you know where that term comes from, don't you? So, man, get it now while it's cheap. You can do without air conditioning. You can do without fast food. You can do without your phone. What you can't do without is food and water. And if you're one of those people that needs to take medicines on a daily basis to survive, you need to make plans for that too, because that's going to disappear. Now, the good news is a lot of you are going to find out when times get tough and you start eating stuff that you cook and eating right, there's going to be some of the medicines you don't need anymore. There's going to be some medicines that if you quit taking, you're not going to need half your other medicines anymore. That's not a subject for this video, but just trust me. The people who are making your medicines, do you honestly believe that they have your best interest at heart? Or do they profit more by keeping you chronically ill? Just think about that. And if you love and trust them guys that much, you just keep right on doing what you're doing. Because I'm quite sure that the government's going to take good care of you and all of their allies in Big Pharma and in a corporate food supply. They have your best interests at heart, trust me. God bless. We'll see y'all later.